Well, that's it. I'm done experimenting. What am I talking about? Come back after the titles and find out. Hey everybody, Anthony Dodge, the Model Train Outsider, the Märklin Outsider, back with another First Impressions video. And my last couple of First Impressions videos dealt with some experimental livery things that Deutsche Bahn, the German federal rail system, was experimenting with in the mid-1980s. So just a quick rehash. While they always had some sort of livery system, by the mid-1980s, there were so many liveries still running in Germany, and they wanted to, Deutsche Bahn, wanted to create a consistent, what they called a uniform livery for all the Deutsche Bahn trains. And they hired an outside company as well as used their own internal company to come up with designs, and they chose a couple that they wanted to see in life size, so they put these designs on some cars and a couple of locomotives, a couple of Class 111s and a couple others, and they just decided to look at them. Now, Märklin released a 111 in one of the experimental liveries. It released a box set, which I did a couple of weeks ago in a video. And then it released a set of cars, one of the other experimental liveries. As far as I know, this was the only ones that Märklin did from this experiment. These are not liveries that actually ran. These are liveries that Deutsche Bahn was considering. What is interesting is that even though both these liveries were eventually rejected, they definitely influenced later Deutsche Bahn liveries before they came down to the most modern and current official livery, which is regional traffic is the red with a thin white stripe, or first class gets obviously the yellow line, which is traditional throughout Europe. And the high-speed traffic is all white with a red stripe, regardless of it, whether it's an intercity or an intercity express. But these two sets of liveries that I've shown, well, one I've shown and one I'm going to show, have definitely influenced, because in the 90s there was definitely a green livery that matches what I'm going to show you today that was common throughout large parts of Germany. And of course, the cars I showed a couple of weeks ago with the red and white obviously hinted at the red and the white liveries to come. So this, we're not going through a locomotive or anything today. I'm just going to show you the cars and then let them get a little run for you guys to see. So let's look at the cars. So here we have 4 coaches with this concept of the white with the green striping through it, and then slightly different nomenclature depending on the type of train. Very sharp livery, although again, I feel this one more than the previous ones, which I'll put back up in a little bit, are kind of dated. But this, for its time, definitely was sharp. But here you have a first class car with the IC livery on it, the intercity. Because already the intercity expresses were coming out at this time. And then you have the FD, which my friend Jean Ricard will tell you means Ferndienst, the long distance service. So again, same idea. And then a city bond, sort of the equivalent of a Regio. And then a baggage car. Now, I don't know the exact date, but clearly baggage cars were eliminated. Nowadays, when you take a train, there are baggage sections in each car. But they were still opting. And just like the previous model, these doors actually do open and close. But that is the second experimental livery they were looking at. very sharp, very cool for its time. Again, maybe a bit dated, definitely has an 80s, early 90s vibe to it. I don't know if these were put out today, if you'd feel like, wow, these are very... But obviously I do think they're cool. But this is the last of the experimental set. Now, Märklin did not put a lot of time and money into these. And since these were not officially run, there's a lot of the little signage and so forth that was never applied to these, some of the running numbers and other information you would expect to see. You know, you do have the standard Deutsche Bahn lettering because these are cars that are still going to be used somewhere else once they're taken out of these liveries. But each train came with stickers that you could apply to it, decals that you could apply to it, water-based decals that you could apply to it to make them look like actual in-service trains. Window signage, destination signage, and so forth. But I got the first 3 cars within a few days of getting the original set, but the 4th car arrived earlier this week. And so now I finally got the complete set. But these are model numbers 4220 through 4223. So 4220, 4221, 4222, and 4223. And this was all that Märklin did in the experimental livery. So I'm just going to get a couple of quick running shots of these and make this a relatively short video. But I hope you guys have kind of enjoyed these what-if scenario cars. I have, and that's why I got them. They really just got to me, and I decided just to have this collector's set. It's not a very rare set, but these are not widespread. Even when they were first released, they were limited numbers. Okay, so I have hooked these up with my Class 101, celebrating the Deutsche Bahn Museum's Design and Bahn Ausstellung exhibition that they had a few years ago, back in 2021, 2022. Since this is a local advertising design and trains, design and rail, I think it's a fairly fitting locomotive to pull this. Unfortunately, the experimental loco that I first got is not running well right now. I'm having to work on it. So let's go ahead and put this in action and just see these cars rolling through. So let's get that going. Going through the Dumhurst station. All right, so we will wrap this up with just a final little video view of this experimental set. So you've got the singularly released Class 111 and the 4 individually released
cars that I was showing today, and then there was the set that came with this loco and these for cars. So let's just try to take a look and go through and appreciate this somewhat rare Märklin collection. Something I didn't need to buy, but bought anyhow. And I'm very pleased with it all.
All right, so there you have it, the end of this experimental series. Very cool, very interesting for me, the historian part of me, to see ideas developing and taking shape. And it was also cool just to, out of the blue, for no reason at all, buy this. It's not super rare. You can actually find these kits on eBay, but it was a limited release. These were not massively sold. Märklin had no idea how well these would sell or not, and as mentioned in the original video, they did not put a lot of work into the locomotives. They used their most basic stuff, used the word lowest end. They used the minimal amount to still maintain Märklin quality of that period, but they weren't going to put a lot of effort into it because A, they didn't know how this series was going to sell, but they did want to get it out there. But anyhow, so there it is. A great couple of sets of coaches and two pretty cool looking locomotives. And that's the Märklin experimental series release from 1987. I've enjoyed collecting these, and I've enjoyed having them. I do have to work a little bit on both locomotives, but that's something I can use to learn for other things. So until the next more official purchase, I will say, Auf Wiedersehen, tschüss, and happy trains. Take care, everybody.